Fractions on a number line. Before we talk about fractions on a number line today, we're going to review some of the words that we talked about last week. So we are talking about numerator. Numerator refers to the top number of a fraction, that is how many parts out of the whole thing you are talking about. Denominator is the bottom number of a fraction that talks about how many parts the whole thing is broken into. So for example, if I have 1/4, and I have a picture here that shows 1/4, 4 represents that this picture is in 4 equal parts, and the 1 on the top represents how many pieces I would be talking about. So I could shade that, I could eat that. It's how many parts that you are looking at out of the whole thing. So you can kind of color that in. And so that represents one of the pieces out of all 4. Okay. Now, when I only have one pieces out of all 4, that is known as a unit fraction. It just means one piece. Whereas a non-unit fraction will refer to the parts that I'm not speaking about, like the 3 non-shaded or unshaded parts. So I can say that the non-unit fraction for this represents 3. Oh, I probably made that really big. Let's try that again. 3/4. Okay, so the non-unit part is 3/4. Now I can apply that same knowledge when I'm thinking of number lines. This is a number line here that I have here. Now we use number lines all the time for whole numbers, but today we are going to use them for fraction numbers. In between each of these whole numbers, there are smaller numbers that come in between them called fractions. Okay, and so right now I'm going to put some numbers on this line, and I'm going to start at 0, and I'm going to use 1 and 2. These are my whole numbers, just like on my number line demonstrated up in here. So I'm going to break each part of the number line from 0 to 1 into smaller pieces of the whole. So I'm going to use this, and I'm going to break this up into 2 equal pieces, doing that by making one more tick mark in the middle, which gives me 2 equal pieces. I'm also going to draw a line here just so you can get a visual of what is we're actually talking about. We're not talking about the tick mark. We're talking about the space from 0 to the tick mark. So say, for instance, I want to go from this tick mark to the first line. That space, that size, gets me 1/2 because it's broken up into 2 equal parts from 0 to 1, and I've gone from 0 to 1. I went 1 part of the way out of 2. Okay. Now, to go the other part of the way from that tick mark to the 1, now I've gone 2 parts of the way. So then I can say that that is 2 halves or 1 whole. It's the same thing because I went the same distance in the way. And I can do that all the way across my number line. Now, I could also break my number line up into even smaller pieces. So we see that a half-size piece is that large. Now, and we see that size inside of this bar. A half-size piece is that size, okay, out of this hole. Now, I can take my bar and I can break it up into smaller pieces by adding more lines. So say I want to draw 4 pieces. I can go break this one part into 2 parts and break that one part into 2 parts. And when I do that, I've actually made 4 parts of the number line. So now when I go from 0 to the first tick mark here, and I don't want to cover up my red line, so I'm going to go under. Now I've gone 1 part of the way out of 4 parts of this size. So this is 1/4, and I'm talking about that size. So if I took my shape above and I filled it in like that, you can see this part up to here has 4 equal size pieces, okay? And then if I wanted to go further, oh, I need a new color, yellow. If I wanted to go further from the second tick mark to this one right here, I would be at 2/4, which is the same place as 1/2. So we're talking about the size pieces. The yellow piece is the same size as the blue line, and so on and so forth. So now I'm going to use this red line if I want to go from there to there. And now I've gotten to 3/4. I'm going to do the last part. I'm going to use another yellow line. So now blue to the first tick mark gets me 1/4 of the way. And then yellow here gets me 2/4. So the blue and yellow together are 2 parts out of 4. So that's what my fractions on a number line look like. So this last part got me the whole way, but it took me 4 parts or 4 jumps to get there. So then that represents 4 parts out of 4. As you can see, 4 parts out of 4 is at the same place 2/2 or 1/2 is at. So those are the same or considered to be equivalent. So that's a new word. So we're talking about fractions on a number line.